What if your child was born on Mars and never knew what Earth felt like? What if your home was powered, not by solar panels on your roof, but by giant satellites in space beaming energy down from orbit? And what if the next great wars weren't over oil or borders, but over rocks floating between Mars and Jupiter worth trillions? We're not talking science fiction. We're talking science foresight. Backed by the Royal Society itself, one of the oldest and most respected scientific institutions on the planet. In 2024, they published a radical, unsettling, and awe-inspiring vision of the next 50 years in space. A future where corporations mine asteroids like modern-day pirates, space babies grow up in cities under red skies, and energy comes from orbiting power plants, not power lines. But with this future comes the deepest questions we've ever faced. Who gets to own a planet? Should Martian children follow Earth's laws? And how do we protect the moon from becoming just another tourist trap? This is the story of what's coming by 2075. And it's not just about rockets. It's about power, identity, survival, and ethics. So buckle in, because we're diving into a future so real, it's already being planned.
Okay, let's get something straight. Everything you're about to hear isn't wild guessing. It's based on a detailed foresight report by the Royal Society, the same institution that dates back to Isaac Newton. They gathered top scientists, ethicists, engineers, even futurists, to ask one big question: if we continue expanding into space, what will human life look like in 2075? And the answers? They weren't about just more satellites or moon missions. They painted a vision of a second civilization, emerging beyond Earth's atmosphere. Let's break it down decade by decade.
We're already in this phase. Commercial players like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Axiom are launching private astronauts, cargo, and even modules for upcoming space stations. NASA, ESA, they're still key players, but they're becoming customers, not just controllers. By the early 2030s, the International Space Station will be decommissioned. Taking its place, a network of private space stations, customized for tourism, pharma research, zero-gravity manufacturing, and maybe even hotel chains. This is when things heat up. Robots are sent to the asteroid belt, mainly between Mars and Jupiter, to mine metals and water. Why? Because just one asteroid, like 16 Psyche, could hold more nickel, iron, and platinum than the entire Earth economy. And it's not just about metals. Water ice from asteroids can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, fuel for the next wave of missions. Suddenly, these floating rocks become strategic assets, and with no clear space law to govern ownership, it's a new Wild West. By mid-century, we may see the first permanent lunar base. A few years later, the first Martian habitats, self-sustaining, solar-powered, and dome-covered. By 2075, the report predicts this: the first generation of humans will be born off Earth. They'll grow up in Martian gravity, in artificial biospheres, with no memory of blue skies or oceans. At the same time, orbital solar power stations beam energy down to Earth, clean, continuous power from satellites that never sleep. So by 2075, we won't just be visiting space. We'll be living, working, and evolving in it. But with all this progress comes one massive question: are we ready for the consequences? Up next, we'll explore one of the most explosive pieces of that future, the asteroid mining boom, and how it could reshape the global economy or trigger space conflict. Imagine a rock the size of a city, floating silently between Mars and Jupiter, and inside, more precious metals than the entire Earth's stockpile. Welcome to the asteroid belt and the next great economic race. By 2040, The Royal Society predicts asteroid mining will no longer be science fiction. It will be strategic infrastructure. Let's talk numbers. One asteroid, 16 Psyche, is believed to contain over $10,000 quadrillion worth of iron, nickel, and rare metals. That's more than the entire global economy. Not just billion-dollar value, civilization-shifting value. Platinum group metals, for electronics and renewable tech. Water ice, split into hydrogen and oxygen to create rocket fuel. Nickel and cobalt, critical for batteries and construction in space. Basically everything you'd need to build and sustain cities off Earth. NASA already launched a mission to 16 Psyche. SpaceX is focused on heavy lift to carry mining bots. Startups like Planetary Resources and Astro Forge are building tech to harvest and return small samples. But here's the twist. There are no clear laws about who owns space resources. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty says no country can claim the moon or asteroids. But it doesn't say anything about companies. So what happens when two nations land on the same rock? Or when a private firm grabs the first samples and calls it theirs? What's stopping a future war, not over land, but over a chunk of metal in the void? Now imagine this. Asteroid fuel depots in deep space. Lunar factories using asteroid materials. And yes, Earth's economy shifting away from terrestrial mining. Some experts even warn, if asteroid mining isn't regulated early, it could become the next oil crisis, only in space. But while everyone's eyes are on metals and minerals, the real breakthrough might come from the sky itself. Because up next, we'll explore the crazy idea of turning space into your next power source, with solar stations beaming energy straight down from orbit. What if I told you the biggest power plant of the future won't be on Earth, but orbiting above it? And instead of laying power lines across deserts and oceans, we'll beam clean, continuous solar energy directly from space to our cities, schools, and homes. This isn't science fiction. By 2075, the Royal Society predicts space-based solar power will be part of the global energy grid. On Earth, solar power has limits. Cloud cover, day and night cycles, land usage. But in space, the sun never sets. No atmosphere to block light. And the arrays can be 10x more efficient. Giant solar collectors are launched into geosynchronous orbit. They convert sunlight into microwaves or laser beams. These beams are all safely transmitted to massive receivers on Earth. Ground stations convert that into electricity for the grid. It's like Wi-Fi, but for power. China has launched its first prototype in low orbit. The UK, Japan, and even Caltech in the US are developing solar beaming modules. Startups are working on foldable ultralight solar panels that launch cheaply. By 2040s, we could see the first small-scale beaming tests from space to Earth. But there are serious challenges. Aligning giant panels in space with millimeter precision. Building safe, focused beams that don't fry planes or birds. Public fear. Laser beams from space sounds like a villain's plan. And then there's this. What if a hostile nation hijacks the beam or redirects the energy? It's a clean technology, but it could become a powerful weapon if misused. Space solar could replace fossil fuels, power off-grid regions, support lunar and Martian colonies, even beam energy from one side of the planet to the other in real time. It's not just about keeping your lights on, it's about building a planetary civilization that doesn't depend on digging up the ground. And while we figure out how to beam power from orbit, another breakthrough is unfolding 225 million kilometers away. because by 2075, the first children born on Mars might be walking, talking, and learning in red soil classrooms. Imagine being born under a salmon-colored sky, where gravity is just a third of what your parents experienced, where there's no blue ocean, no clouds, and no going outside without a spacesuit. That's the future the Royal Society envisions for 2075, when the first humans could be born on Mars. We're not just talking about babies born in space. We're talking about a new kind of human, one that evolves, learns, and grows in a totally alien environment. On Mars, gravity is 62% weaker. The atmosphere is toxic and thin. Radiation is much higher due to no magnetic field. That means Martian-born children might have longer limbs and weaker bones, different blood flow patterns, slower muscle development, higher risk of cancer or reproductive issues. They may need new medicines, new diets, even new forms of exercise just to stay alive. Now imagine being a Martian kid. Your first words aren't spoken under the stars, but in an artificial habitat. Your bedtime stories? Not about oceans or trees, but rovers and dust storms. Would you even feel connected to Earth? Would you want to go home to a place you've never seen? If a baby is born on Mars, are they Earth citizens? Part of a Mars colony? Something else entirely? What flag do they follow? What language do they speak? Who writes their laws? By 2075, we might have the first humans who identify as Martians, not metaphorically, but biologically, socially, and legally. NASA's official policies don't yet cover Martian citizenship, but scientists say it's only a matter of time before space birth certificates become real. With babies being born on another planet, we're not just expanding outward. We're splitting what it means to be human in two directions. And that raises huge ethical questions. Who decides the rules of life on another world? Because when humans spread across planets, we don't just bring our bodies. We bring our politics, our laws, our problems. We've explored asteroid mining, energy from orbit, and even babies born on Mars. But here's the question that could define the entire future of humanity in space. Who makes the rules? Because space isn't just empty, it's a blank slate. A place where every decision about life, ownership, justice has to be made from scratch. Let's say a crime happens in a Mars colony. Whose court decides guilt or innocence? A country, a company, or some future Martian council? So far, we've relied on international treaties like the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, which says no country can claim ownership of the moon or other celestial bodies. But it doesn't say anything about corporations building settlements, private property on Mars. What happens when nations disagree over an asteroid? Should humans on Mars have to obey Earth laws forever? Or should they be allowed to write their own constitution? Some scientists believe the first Mars settlers should be treated like founding citizens of a new nation. But here's the risk. If we don't set ethical standards early, space could become the ultimate playground for exploitation. What happens if one company controls food, water, oxygen, jobs, and law? That's not a sci-fi dystopia. That's a real risk if we allow corporations to run entire habitats. We've already seen what happens on Earth when profit is prioritized over people. Do we really want to repeat that on another planet? Here's another ethical bombshell. Should we terraform planets like Mars, change them permanently for our needs, or should we preserve them, like cosmic nature reserves? If we find alien microbes, do we have the right to kill them off for our own survival? As we reach for the stars, we're not just conquering space. We're confronting who we are and what kind of civilization we want to be. So the next time you look up at the night sky, remember, We're not just asking if we can go to space. We're asking how we should live when we get there.
By 2075, the Royal Society envisions a reality where we mine asteroids like modern-day gold rushes. We beam solar energy from orbit to every corner of Earth.
We raise children on Mars who may never visit their home planet. And we debate the ethics of shaping entire worlds with our own hands. This isn't just a timeline. It's a test of our humanity. Everything we take out there, our ambition, our intelligence, our innovation, we also take our flaws, our greed, our divisions, our short-sightedness, and space will magnify all of it. The big question isn't, can we live in space? We already can. The real question is, will we do it wisely? Will we do it together? What kind of species will we become when we're no longer bound to one planet? Will we build a peaceful, multi-world society that uplifts all of humanity? Or just copy-paste Earth's problems into the stars?
Here's the truth. By 2075, many of us watching this video today may still be alive to witness the first Martian birth, to see power beamed from orbit, to hear debates about whether Mars should declare independence. That future isn't far away. It's being built right now.
So what part will you play in this story? Will you be a settler, a scientist, a dreamer, or just a witness? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this video expanded your mind, share it, because the future needs curious people like you. Subscribe to sparkveda, and let's journey into the unknown together.